podcasts themselves kind of found their own weird little crevice in between these two worlds, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's not necessarily educational. It's just people, vomiting thoughts back and forth, right? And, discussing different ideas or whatever, or, having someone like you on as a guest. Like, some people that are watching my YouTube channel may not know who you are. Now they do, and they can, compare our ideas that we're bouncing back and forth between each other and decide they agree with something or they don't agree with anything. I mean, podcasts, I think it's what's cool about them is they inspire a little bit more thinking.
I think the benefit they have is they're primarily audio, and people have a greater, for whatever reason, long form just works better. It just does. And whenever you have long form, you can expound on ideas. You can go farther, go deeper. That is one of the great sort of crimes of YouTube, is that people's attention span on the platform is so short. So actually, you brought up Netflix. I think Netflix actually has a different market on attention, because you don't go to Netflix. Your idea of Netflix isn't to go there and watch a 5-minute clip. That's
right.
People's ideas on YouTube. They want to watch a 5-minute clip. And I'm talking in generalities, because obviously there are exceptions to this. People make 5-hour documentaries on YouTube, and sometimes they find success. But when people come to YouTube, most people's attention span is like 8 minutes, 9 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you're really pumping them, right?
Right.
Because the entire time, even the way YouTube is set up is to make you ADD. Like, it's like your video, but then there's other things on the side. So even your viewing experience, or like people will be scrolling through comments, you're not even getting a true viewing experience. When you put on Netflix, they're not showing you, as you're watching the show, other shows you could be watching. Whereas like YouTube, they're constantly hitting you with like, hey, you want to watch this? Maybe this is boring. You want to click off? Hey, you want to interact with the comments? Hey, you want to do this? It's like this ADD experience that you're not actually zoning in, tuning in completely. And that's another thing that just hurts that educational quality, because in education, you need that. You need people to really tune in. So that's one of the benefits of podcasts. When you're listening to a podcast, a lot of people listen on their way to work. They have nothing else to do. They're tracked in with what you're saying. And so there's a much larger time frame you have to talk about ideas, tell ideas. I think podcast is a different game. I'm not necessarily talking about that when I talk about my own cynicism. I'm talking specifically about my experience on this platform. And some people may disagree. I'd love to hear what people think of that, because that's my own pet theory that I've been working on for a while, mostly taken from Neil Postman, Amusing Ourselves to Death. He's a sociologist from like the 1900s, and he really influenced me. He's got these 3 commandments of television that I think are totally true in the modern age.
What are those 3 commandments?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember them on the fly, but basically one is knowledge can never be hierarchical. You can never ask a viewer to come in with knowledge. TV never does that. Neither does YouTube. You never watch a YouTube video and they go, hey, if you haven't watched the first 10 episodes, unless it's serialized like a drama, you're never going to watch an educational video that says, hey, guys, we're going to have to stop you at the door if you haven't seen this. Everything's built for beginners. And whenever everything's built for beginners, it's never going to go that deep. The other side of it is he words it like a commandment. He goes, thou shalt avoid exposition like the plague, which is as soon as you turn into nuance, people turn off. That's just not the way video works. Video is not great at long, winding ideas. Books are great at that. Podcasts are actually pretty good at it. Video is not. When you think about video, when somebody starts just rambling on, hey, I'm out. Because it's stimulus, I've got to be stimulated. I want to watch a car blow up. I want to watch something. I want to watch something happen. But when you're just talking to me, when you're just expounding one idea forever, it gets boring. And so you see people compress ideas in video because of that. And then I'm trying to remember the last one. I think it's something to do with thou shalt avoid confusion or something like that. Basically, all ideas must be simplified to a single point. Everything must be kernels, takeaways. There has to be the 1-sentence summary. And so he was talking about education on TV, by the way. So he's talking about that. But if you think about, a lot of these shows, they end up, any kind of TED Talk you have, they're always trying to give you one idea. That's what communicators do by nature, but especially science communicators. They want to hit you with that one little factoid. something about Mars, how far we are from Mars, or hey, this is the rule, this is the blah blah blah, this is the secret. And in reality, that's not teaching you that much. That's giving you a little party tidbit. But should education be more than that? And so those are his 3 rules. But if you want to go read the book, I would.
That sounds interesting. I think education should be like that, but I don't think that's, I don't know whose responsibility that is, but I think it's a cultural thing. And I don't know what has created that. Although I'm sure it's multiple things, but for an example, going back to YouTube titles, YouTube headlines, I think the most popular headlines are exactly what you said. They're just like boiled down versions of a 1-hour conversation into like a few words that just grab you by the throat and really drag you in, because you kind of have to have, like, again, with the way our culture is and with the way YouTube culture, YouTube's algorithm works, you kind of have to have that bait and switch. Everybody's looking for that bait and switch. Unless you're Joe Rogan, then you just make the title of your video your guest's name.
Yes. Okay. So actually, first of all, he's a legend for that. The balls required to just like not even. Well, I think it's partially because his success never required him to really adapt to like grabby titles. But anyways, I'll say this about YouTube. Like, this is my biggest hate and why I think education is sort of dying on YouTube. The other factor is, okay, how do I explain this? There is no reputation on YouTube, which drives me crazy. So how did the New York Times have the luxury to kind of build a reputation? Well, it's because reputation mattered. Everyone kind of knows the New York Times, maybe less now, but as a reputable newspaper, you have reputation there. And reputation allows you to sink cost into quality, knowing that it'll pay off in the future, right? So YouTube, to some extent, that was captured in subscribers. You could build a reputation because, hey, you're subscribing to my content, so I know that if I publish something that's maybe a little off the wall, maybe not as grabby, maybe not as clickbaity, I know my audience will still be there because you guys have signed up to my newspaper. You've got, my reputation matters to you, and so it'll surface in the algorithm. Well, what YouTube has done is they've really distanced themselves from subscribers. It's largely a vanity number. It still means something, but it's largely a vanity number. You'll see channels with millions of subscribers who get 10,000 views in a video. And you're thinking, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. Well, how it happens is YouTube is now deciding for the viewer that they're not interested in a show, even if they've already subscribed to it, because they didn't click on the last video. And so they won't show you this video.
Right.
Or they're saying, hey, your normal fans, they're not clicking on this video as much. So we're going to test it out. We'll test it out with 10% of your audience. And if they don't click on the video at like a high click-through rate, then we're not even going to show it to the rest of your fans who have all agreed that they want to see your stuff. And so what does this do? It incentivizes that it tells the creator that every video has to still be grabby. You can never graduate from People magazine where you're trying to grab people's attention, because you're forever in competition for their attention. Because if every video doesn't hit like that, then you're sacrificing your long-term growth. Where if there was reputation involved, you could build sort of that more qualified reputation of, you guys know me. And you wouldn't have to do that. Now, as you pointed out, rightfully, there are still a few creators who get away with this, who still can build that reputation. If you're big enough, you don't have to play by everyone else's rules. But if you're a normal creator on YouTube, if you're not playing the clickbait game, if you're not playing the over-the-top titles, you're going to lose. And it's sad that we're doing that. Like, it's sad that the whole platform is having to bend to these new incentives. And it's like, how do we build a video platform where you can grow that trust with your audience and know that your audience will be there because you've made quality things in the past? They'll trust you enough to show it to your subscribers now. I don't know the answer to that, but that, I think, is part of it.
Yeah, it's a sad evolution of YouTube and how it's changed because of the growth. I mean, I'm sure there's things that we don't know about, like, what's happened with the way the company's grown and the billions of hours of content that are uploaded every day. I'm sure there's things that they have to do to keep their shareholders happy. that, you know, includes this kind of suppression of content that makes people have to run this rat race of clickbait, this clickbait rat race.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely a side to it. Ultimately, they're just optimizing for long-term audience retention. But what they're not optimizing for is long-term creator freedom and creator satisfaction. So, right, they're like they want to make sure they retain you as long as possible on the site, but they don't realize, and there's not really a great metric to do it, as far as I'm aware, to measure, okay, how does this affect creators now that we really don't show their videos to everyone anymore? We only show them to the like 5% who clicked it last time, and you're left in this like spinning wheel of having to clickbait. How does that change? How does that change their content? Every piece of the algorithm is like an evolutionary pressure on the ecosystem, and your creators will change what they're making based on an algorithm change. We saw this with, as they valued watch time, videos got longer. Now, it used to be you'd see a video of a person, you know, saying, I jump off a giant cliff, and it's them jumping off the giant cliff. Now, if you go to YouTube 2020, they'll say, hey, watch me jump off this cliff. They'll jump off, they'll freeze frame. Let me show you how I got here. And then it's 10 minutes of stupid, pointless exposition. And it's like, you'd think about, why is this here? Why is this all this filler here? Why are just so many videos just pointless filler? Well, it's because the evolutionary pressures of the platform. They've said, we want more content. So creators go, well, I'll find a way to fit it in there. I'll bait you, and then I'll put 8 minutes of filler and then actually give you what I baited you with at the beginning. So that's what happens is YouTube, I think they're probably aware, but I think they could become a lot more aware of how are they affecting the creators on their platform. And long-term, is this going to make YouTube a place where you don't feel like you can find the quality creators anymore because they've stopped creating, or they've really kind of sold out to the clickbaity, overhyped content?